Hey guys, it's Vic, and today we're going to look at our 17th entry in the Victionary, the Custom Jet Squelcher. The Victionary is a series of guides to help provide a starting point for players looking to pick up new weapons, or those who want some tips moving forward with the weapons they like. The Custom Jet Squelcher comes equipped with burst bombs and a stingray. It's a strong backline weapon that can be a massive threat on certain maps, such as Camp Triggerfish, Dorf Institute, and Wahoo World. Why is this weapon so good on these kinds of maps, you might wonder? It's all about this little thing called spacing. When I say you want to space an opponent out, I mean you want to make sure you can hit them and they can't hit you. You'll see a lot of players instinctively back up while playing the Custom Jet, which is a good start. As long as you don't back up too far, you'll still deal the full 32 damage shots the Jet has to offer. Along with spacing, positioning yourself with the Custom Jet Squelcher is another important piece of playing it at its best. After all, as a Custom Jet, it's my job to stop the opposing backline. If I'm too aggressive fighting a very patient Hydra Splatling, for example, they're going to take me out. The same applies to weapons that have shorter range, if you're in their kill range. Let's look at Dorf Institute. This map, at least on tower control, has some gratings extending past the middle of the roof that you'll see a lot of backliners step onto in order to reach the other side. These gratings are a double-edged sword. See how I can reach opponents from the grating easily? Remember that your opponents could easily do the same. If you see someone with similar range approaching you on that grating, it's going to be in your best interest to either splat them as soon as possible or back off to wait for an opening. Now it should be noted that while the Custom Jet Squelcher is a backlining weapon, it probably is the one that's most likely to survive a close combat encounter. It's still a shooter, which makes it a bit easier to stop a close-up flank in comparison to a charger, as long as you're not stingraying. But hey, who says you have to die just because you're in the middle of a stingray? If you can back up in time, thanks to some very good reaction skills, you can splat opponents that think they can rush you just because you're shooting your stingray. Chances are, your stingray won't last too long to put you in too much danger. Given that you're not mid-ray though, those burst bombs will let you win close-range fights by pelting a bomb or two, and then finishing off your opponent with just a couple of shots. I'm keeping this vague because a burst bomb can do 35 damage or as low as 25 damage with an indirect shot, and 60 damage with a direct shot. Comparatively, the Jet Squelcher does 32 damage without fall-off. In a close combat situation, you're going to be doing that entire 32 damage. If both of your burst bomb shots do only the minimum amount of damage, 50, you'll still need to land 2 shots with your weapon to get the splat. Now, excluding close combat situations, there are other great times to use those burst bombs, like in Splat Zones. That's right, the Jet Squelcher is surprisingly very good at painting the map. When you're not trying to just generally cover the map to zone out your opponents, you can actually take advantage of a burst bomb or two to neutralize the zone. On maps like the Reef or Blackbelly Skate Park, it's possible to capture a zone with just a couple of well-placed burst bombs, as long as no one else is contesting for the zone. Just keep in mind that spamming the zone with burst bombs means that you're not watching for flanking opponents, nor are you really being too much of a threat. If you don't have a strong front line to keep opponents away from you, you'll also want to throw bombs from a safer position to have time to react if your opponents get too close. The more aggressive your teammates are, the further you can push up. Even as a backline, you don't want to spend the entire game in just one spot. Defend your post as long as you need to, and then move up with your team. They'll appreciate your painting support as well as the threat of your long range. This long range, combined with your decent painting ability, allows you to contest the zone pretty easily alongside a teammate. You're not going to be able to outpaint certain weapons, such as a custom dually squelcher, but you can still use this to your advantage. If you can lure your opponents in close enough to strike, while they can't strike you, you can convert that into some easy picks. Sometimes your opponents might tunnel. They'll get so focused on trying to capture that zone that they'll completely forget that everyone else exists, including you. Opponents do this in a variety of modes, but it's very common in Splat Zones, and hey, it never hurts to get a free kill, right? Tower control is going to be a lot of fun for you while playing the Jet Squelcher. Don't forget the Custom Jet has Stingray. Theoretically, the strongest way to use the Jet in tower control is to paint, Stingray, repeat. And yes, this is effective, but there is a big flaw. If you lack a strong offensive frontline to take out opponents, there are times where you'll just be painting enemy territory over and over again, and giving your opponents free points for specials. Something that you can do to be a little more active is to paint with a purpose. You can try to paint the space where your teammates are. Some will call this technique painting their feet. On tower control, you want to make sure that even if you're staying on the tower for the entire game because your teammates are all aggressive and keep ignoring it, that you're painting the direction where your team is pushing. Are you riding the tower alone, but know your teammates are on the way? Paint the tower path to let them be able to push up for you. Of course, the Custom Jet is also surprisingly aggressive. While popping your Stingray on the tower once an enemy push starts is always good, you can also do plenty to keep yourself alive while riding too. Your burst bombs keep the tower painted easy peasy, letting you dip and dive on the tower without putting yourself in danger. If an opponent tries to ambush you by climbing on the tower, you just have to overpower them. Help them with a bomb to trap them in your ink, and then keep piling on the damage until you're all alone again. If you're confident in your burst bombs, just remember that 2 burst bombs is enough to splat an opponent as long as you're accurate. I don't recommend running enough Ink Saver sub to get to 3 burst bombs. It costs way too much, and there are many better abilities you can run on the jet. Speaking of opponents, you'll definitely want good aim if you want to stay on top of every push imaginable in Rainmaker. The versatility of the Custom Jet Squelcher shines in Rainmaker. Its shots are fast and strong enough to be a great help with popping the Rainmaker from a distance, and then your teammates can take over when they get close. A fun option for the jet is actually to pick off opponents that are too focused on the Rainmaker shield. If you see someone shooting on the other side, why not take them out? Not only will this help your team pop the shield faster, but you've now created a 3v4 situation for the enemy team, which can help your team get a strong early lead. When you're not causing trouble, the Custom Jet Squelcher can be a strong backline as well. If your opponents keep pushing on the right, for example, why stand on the other side? Stay on the right and take advantage of your map to know exactly what path the opposing team and their Rainmaker carrier want to make. If you see ink magically appearing on the left, but there's not a Rainmaker in sight, that means that an opponent is currently painting a path before they make what could be an important push. Take advantage of your jet's long range to quickly repaint those kinds of paths if you happen to be in a position to do so. It can surprise opponents when they come through to make their grand push, but the path is gone. Of course, if you care so much about that lead, you do have a Stingray. Your Stingray can bop a runaway Rainmaker long before they reach the lead, as long as you're prepared. The Custom Jet Squelcher does get a lot of Stingrays, but you want to be careful when you use it. Using your Stingray when there's only one opponent alive isn't always the worst decision though. It wipes the enemy team, preventing any opponents from super jumping back in. However, you don't want to Stingray a singular opponent if you have no idea where they are. Remember that if you don't start raining right away, you can see your opponent's silhouette and then threaten them properly. When more opponents are alive, you'll want to Stingray where you know they are or where you know they'll want to go. As a bonus, take advantage of knowing where opponents are and Stingray where opponents are bunched up. If you splat one opponent, you might get someone else stuck by accident. That'll make them easier to finish off, whether it's with your ray or if you have a teammate close by to the action. If you're playing with friends, don't forget that you can use your Stingray to tell them where your opponents are. This will help them be prepared if they're pushing. You can even use your Stingray to power up a Rainmaker push. Just blast your Stingray through the path your Rainmaker carrying teammate wants to go. If an opponent wants to challenge the Rainmaker, they'll have a harder time doing it head on. You can also Stingray where you believe opponents would like to go to stop the Rainmaker carrier. This will force your opponents to reposition and give your teammate more time to score points. When you're not hilariously Stingraying your opponents into oblivion, the Jet Squelcher's burst bombs have fantastic stopping power. Just throw a burst bomb where the enemy Rainmaker wants to go, stopping them dead in their tracks, and leaving them to get splatted by your teammates. The Jet's long range of course means that if you know where the Rainmaker carrier is coming from, whether you're trying to go for a splat or just slow them down, you can ink a path and then shoot directly where you think they're coming from. They'll have to challenge you if they want to move forward along that path. Just remember, the Jet Squelcher shots are a bit thin, so the paths that you paint won't be the largest for your teammate. Now, even with good planning, the Custom Jet is in a weird spot with Clam Blitz. While pretty much every mode is focused on special coordination, in Clam Blitz this is especially important. Stingray takes opponents out that could be defending the clam basket, but it also works as a fantastic defensive tool to stop opposing clam pushes before they happen. Because you can see the clam carrier on the screen, it's easy to point your Stingray at an approaching foe for an easy hit. Damage nerfs to the Stingray have made it less effective against both Bubbles and Baller though, which can sometimes make it hard to stop a push. Remember that you don't want to pop the baller of a player carrying a clam if they're already under your basket, as that'll allow them to immediately throw that clam. Some players will purposely rush in with a fully formed clam ball in tow, hoping that their baller gets broken as they close in on the basket. When this happens, the player in the baller can throw the clam right away. If you see a baller carrier and no one else is approaching with clams, you can opt to wait out the baller, throw a burst bomb as it pops to trap your opponent, and then splat them before they can pick up their dropped power clam. Keep in mind that some players will baller into your base to let their teammates jump in with clams, so keep track of that clam count on the top of the screen. Thanks to the Custom Jet's offensive power, you're not too bad of a clam carrier yourself. The Jet makes solid, straight paths great for rushing a clam along with your allies. Your burst bombs can help get you and your teammates onto the enemy side, such as painting the walls of Moray Towers. Wall control is really important. If your opponents can't climb the walls, then it will take longer for them to reach you. If you have a firm position in a game of Clam Blitz, you want every advantage you can to defend your position. You also naturally help out your teammates by keeping as many of the walls painted as possible. Passing by an unpainted wall and have plenty of ink to spare? Throw a burst bomb at the wall to solve that problem. You never know if you'll be saving a teammate 2 minutes from now. Burst bombs are generally just great on Clam Blitz. Know there's a mess in the basket and you're not going to be in the proper position to shoot? Throw a burst bomb to scare opponents, possibly do some damage, and trap those foes while you get ready to retaliate. When you're back on your side, just remember that you have all the range in the world to work with. You shouldn't put yourself in danger by dropping yourself into a crowd of opponents pushing into your base. Instead, you want to appear in a safe spot, such as on a perch, up a ramp, or across the map to take out your opponents before they know what hit them. If you can, the perfect place to go will be nearby your teammates. Without standing on their toes, you can shoot right at opponents that your teammates could be fighting, making that fight unfair. That's all I had to say about the Custom Jet Squelcher. It's a fantastic pick on a number of maps, especially linear maps that bring the opponent straight to you. Those burst bombs are good for picking off opponents or painting walls to assist in your movement, so always make sure you have enough ink for a throw. You're the backbone of your team, so I think that it's important to mention yet again that staying alive is crucial. I'm not saying you can't die, but dying less often than your teammates is essential to being a good backline. It takes a patient, analytical player to use this jet to its potential, and that could be you. Thanks, Welshie, for the suggestion. I always pick a comment randomly, so you could be next. Interested in other weapons? Take a look at the ones I've already done via the Victionary playlist and see if a weapon that suits your style has already been covered. Don't be afraid to leave your own comments on the Custom Jet or other weapons in the comments below. You might be able to improve your own play or help others by taking time to talk strategy. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day!